Welcome to Stuck in the Middle, a podcast that explores psychological themes and issues of ambivalence. My name is Palan, a longtime entrepreneur and educator. And to deep dive into the subject, we have two outstanding personalities as panelists. Actor Ms Gautami Tadimalla, all the way from India, and Ms Amal Kooheji, a talent development advocate and former COO of Tamkeen Bahrain. Both of them are participating virtually. So, this podcast aims to explore the intricate relationship between our mental and emotional states and our physical health. I remember as a psychology student studying the mind body connection, psychosomatic, etc. It's the idea that thoughts, feelings, and psychological well being can directly impact how our bodies function and vice versa. And so we have both of our panelists today have tremendous experience, and they will help us deep dive into the subject on understanding this concept much better. And essentially, our minds and bodies are deeply interconnected, influencing each other in both positive and negative ways. And so, before I even just get started, I just want to go straight to Ms. Gautami Tadimalla. What do you think about the mind body connection? If you just share with us just some of your ideas briefly, and then we'll go to ML and then we'll continue. Please.
First of all, thank you so much for having me on the show, and it's an absolute pleasure and an honor to be sharing the table with both of you. I'm looking forward to this. And with regards to the mind-body connection, it's a very real, very tangible one. Not just because that's what we've been taught through traditional wisdom and a lot of psychological or parapsychological studies, and there's more than enough material. So I covered it from 2 points. One is anything I talk about, I've most probably already tried it out on myself. So this is something that, as I think, so I am, is something that has proven itself time and again. Um, a very interesting thing that happened recently. I had a conversation with a group of scientists and technology developers last week, actually. And they were talking about research that's being done and already very good conclusive results of which organ in the body is impacted by which kind of thought. As in, sorrow affects a particular cell, goes to a particular nerve, it attacks a particular organ. So, both positive as well as negative. So, the science that we have, at least in Indian traditional thought, Indian traditional medicine that we have known for millennia, that's been handed down, so now allopathic science and researchers are actually validating that. So I would say mind body connection is very real. You can think yourself into wellness and you can think yourself into ill health.
Thank you. And ML from the other
Well,
part of the world.
thank you again for having me. And yes, I am looking very
Sure.
much forward to this. Of course, science, researchers, psychologists, everybody, as Ms. Gautami mentioned, have proven the mind-body connection. So there's nothing new that we can put on the table here. However, I think my take on this is that humans, by nature, we're born to be resilient. We're born to adapt.
Sure.
And that is the very proof of our existence as Homo sapiens, we have adapted. However, even with this adaptation, the further away we got from nature, the further away we got from our true nature, has created all these imbalances within our inside. From it's all inside out, right? So all of this, and we've adapted to that, and even our brain cells have adapted to that. So even trauma, like there is research proving that pregnant women going through trauma, even if their kids live a luxurious life, but they do have something in their genetics that have built in, that trauma, so they will
Yeah.
have some sort of disorder. So it fascinates me to think that even through this adaptation, we've harmed our bodies with
Mm,
civilization, we've harmed our bodies with all this industrialization, and now with new technology and digitization and the huge numbers of, like, only in Europe there's 40 million mentally, unhealthy
Right.
people, so it's just that it fascinates me how we've done this to ourselves, but also, alhamdulillah, for all the research that proves that we can even unwire all of this, as you mentioned, Watami, that we can unwire this and control it with the positive intelligence, positive thoughts, and control
Yeah.
and create new neural pathways in our brains to control it and achieve that balance that we want to achieve. And it's not really a balance. The balance is a myth. You cannot achieve the balance, but you can achieve better and healthier lifestyles, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you. I think I read this book, The Mind Body Connection, or the Mind Body Method, by Dr. Anders Hansen. And I remember when I was in psychology, the professors used to talk about psychosomatic, asthmatic patients. They get an asthmatic attack when they're under tremendous stress. So I think stress and physical health, there's a very important connection there.
Absolutely.
And the answer people say is, well, managing stress is like through practices like mindfulness, meditation, exercise, yoga. And of course, we have psychosomatic symptoms that keep coming up, which allopathic medicine is not necessarily the right way to find. Or sometimes, longitudinal studies have shown the placebo effect. Just have a sugar pill and then you find that there's something improving simply because it's all in the mind. And mindfulness, Eckhart Tolle always talks about mindfulness, the power of now. And I've realized now that it's very important. And of course, last is nothing but it's positive thinking. So I want to go back to Gautami and ask Gautami a very personal question. You call yourself, and I see you all over the social media, and I see that you are appearing in Life Again foundations, Life Again movements, and you call yourself saying you're a cancer winner.
Hmm.
So, what do you mean by a cancer winner? Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to kind of go give a little bit of context to this. Uh, there is generational trauma, right? One generation,
Mm-hmm.
an individual is exposed to some sort of trauma, emotional, physical, that gets
Sure.
embedded in the genes, genetic memory that is then, conveyed to the next generation. Earlier, it used to skip a generation, then was next generation. Now, scientists are finding that it is now replicated or rather passed on in the same generation, right?
Mm,
So
mm, mm,
when you come to that, everything that you go through becomes part of that trauma that gets embedded in your psyche and therefore kind of written into your genes as well. So, I think, a very potent weapon against allowing that to happen or in allowing the trauma to make such a big impact is how you think. So, the kind of words that
mm,
we use, the kind of terminology, how we see ourselves, how we see others like us around us is very, very important. So the popular term is cancer survivor, right? So survivor is how everyone says it and take it for granted. But if you actually look at the word, there's a connotation of having faced something that's a huge, huge a cataclysmic event, and you've just about survived it. You've made it out of there by the skin of your teeth, sort of thing.
mm, mm, mm,
So fighting cancer, as so many other things, I can speak with authority on cancer. Fighting cancer is not just scraping through. It really is the battle of a lifetime. Different from every disease has its own implication, but cancer somehow gets far more to the core of who you are as a person, how you see yourself in this world. Surviving just doesn't cut it. Someone who has faced cancer, fought it, and overcome it, won over it, is truly a winner, not just a survivor.
Thank you so much. Amal, any thoughts on that? The thinking, moving the mindset from surviving to flourishing, moving the mindset from surviving to winning. and moving the mindset from one negative side to a very positive side, or one of personal optimism.
Yeah, well,
What are your thoughts
I
on
mean,
that, Amy?
absolutely. I mean, anything, the power of the mind, as you mentioned earlier, is everything. You know, it's a, your outlook, your perception, and the repetition and the consistency by which we live and remind ourselves consistently will create those neural pathways in your brain to
Mm,
view the
mm,
world in a
mm,
different way.
mm, mm.
Absolutely. I mean, I love it. I mean, you give me something new from my cancer survivor friends, and I'm going to tell them from now on, don't call yourselves survivors, you're winners. Yes, and that is the true feeling. They do feel like they've won, and they've not
Yeah.
only survived, but they've won, especially the positive ones, right? And it's lovely to live life with, and it takes a lot of wisdom. Yeah, it takes a lot of wisdom and commitment to remaining positive and
Mm,
allowing
mm.
allowing life. You've just read this book, and I think a couple of months ago I read Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. So it's purely about stress management, right? It's very textbooky, I felt, not lovely words, very scientific, but I really enjoyed understanding the biology behind it and everything, and it's true. I mean, we control our brains the way we want, so it just
Yeah.
takes a lot of self-awareness, and a lot of plotting and planning your brain cells and where they're going in the neural pathways. So as long as you're aware and in control, nothing will beat you in life. Nothing. I
Thank
just
you.
finished as well. And everyone's going on about the let go theory from Mel. Yeah, and I just finished that. I found it. She isn't presenting anything new. It was not deep, the book at all, but it's again. And I thought, okay, I've read deeper than that. I've studied more. I've researched more. But it's a good reminder. It even reminded me
Yeah,
of
yeah,
a few
yeah.
things that I'm facing on a daily basis. So the more we surround ourselves by all this positive talk and acceptance of what is, and going forward with what you really want, and the sky's the limit to how positive you become.
True, true. I think you talk about the neuro pathways. You talk two words, plotting and planning. And Gautami said, look, move away from survivor mindset to a winning mindset. Uh, I read Let Go Theory, and I just watched her on TikTok. I know that Gautami in India doesn't get TikTok, but I just watched her for that 1 minute thing, and I got very taken up and I went and read the book. And I could relate it. You're right. It is not necessarily deep like Eckhart Tolle or Sadhguru or anything like that, but it actually is a very powerful reminder of the knowing doing gap. We know what to do, but we don't do it. So you was probably talking about the five. Not saying that 5 a.m. club. Yes, Gautami, you wanted to say something.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So there's this thing about knowing and doing, like Amal was saying and you were saying. That is very correct, and that is the way it needs to be done. Neuro-linguistic program is something that really, really helps to build these pathways and rewire your
Yeah.
brain. And you can do that in small ways. But the thing is, I do a lot of, I wouldn't say work, but I speak to a lot of people across a huge socioeconomic spectrum on a pretty
Hmm.
dedicated
Hmm.
basis, right? So sometimes I feel like I'm on a crusade to actually pick people up and say, look, this is where you are right now, and that's where you could be, and you need to look at yourself and the world a different way. So when I do that, the first few times I did that, I was actually surprised, because I said, it's so simple to say that, okay, this is who I am now, but that's what I could be, and this is what I need to get there. I need to see that I can do this. I need to see that this is possible. I need to see that I have so much around me. But then I realized most people, regardless of how literate or how sophisticated or, sheltered they are, do not have that. Human beings tend to get caught up in the myth of whatever they've been through up until that point in life. So if they've been in a relationship or an environment that's told them that they are less than they think themselves to be, they tend to believe that that's the truth. And if they're told that, you know, this is all you are, this is all you're ever going to be, that's forget it, they're going to somewhere subconsciously tend to believe that. So when I go in there, and this started for me with telling people that they can face cancer and beat it, right? Then it went into other things as well in life. So when I go in there and I tell people that no, you can do more and you have what it takes to rise above
Mm,
this. You have what
mm,
it takes to see this situation in the face, thumb your nose at it, and make your own way out of it. Different people react differently. Most of them, it takes a long time for me to get through to them to say that, oh, yeah, okay, maybe I can do this. Oh, this is not actually who I am. Or this is what I've been told all my life that that's not who I am. So I think this thing of knowing and doing, to get people to the state of knowing is what is the critical thing now that, you know, we need to really look at from both mental health, wellness, education, support in the workplace. Very, very active support in the educational environment is really, really important.
true. I totally agree with you. From illness to wellness, yeah. But I was reading this. There's two things that I was talking to you about, the Knowing Doing app, and one of the things that I read was Robin Sharma's 5 a.m. business, 5 a.m.
Yep.
Club, breakfast club. And when I got up at 5 a.m. and I pulled the curtain out and I looked so dark, I went straight into bed back again because it was just scary to get up at 5 a.m. It was quite cold because it was very misty and all of that stuff. Then I read Mel Robbins' Let Them theory, and I think the first part she says 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. She says NASA was launching the rocket 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Or in the world of cinema, you probably have say 3, 2, 1, action, and go on. So she says 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get up. And so I said, okay, let me try this. And so for the last 1 week, I've been having 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get up. And of course, she says, just psych your mind and says, go and look at, after you're brushing your teeth, look at the mirror and then look at yourself and just give yourself a high five. Well, I've done that for a week now, and then I basically just kinds of promotes your self-esteem, and I think that's important. Like what Emil said, nothing something that's new, but another method or another technique to do it. And she also talks about in that book, because sometimes we all get stressed and then find what is the source of the stress. And one of the things that she talks about is friends. And why do friends all of a sudden leave you or something? And she says it's about proximity, it's about communication. And so we get stressed. And that's one of the things that basically the mind, and then it has a reflection on the body, an ulcer, or basically some kind of a gastric or whatever it is. So just talking about this, I just want to go back to ML and say, so what are the ways in which ML you think that we can take care of both the mind and the body, so essential for health?
Yeah, because I come from the school of inside out, kind of thinking everything comes from within. I think the first step and how I help people in my coaching and mentorship efforts is first, it starts with self awareness. As you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
Gautami, it
Mm-hmm.
starts from
Mm-hmm.
knowing, yeah, and unlocking and unpacking all of these subconscious condition, the way that we've been conditioned to think, our environments, our, and not to look at actually mental health and well-being as, oh, I'm going to go for a yoga class, or I'm going to eat a good meal, and I'm going to go exercise and everything will be solved. No, nothing would be solved, right? Because these are just, they are important physically, of course, they're important. Oxygenating your mind, the breathing, all of this has scientifically been proven that it can, yes,
Sure.
activate certain parts of the brain that will enable you to create those neural pathways for the good habits. It's so that they override the bad habits, because the bad habits are not going to go away. You just need to create new ones, right? But the self awareness, and as you mentioned, across different socioeconomic status, and especially, sorry, but especially with women, because I work with women a lot, we have been raised, I mean, in our cultures to think in certain ways, to take certain burdens, to juggle certain tasks, that anything outside, if we're not perfect, a perfect, perfect in balancing between motherhood and work and all of that, and how can I be a good manager while I have extremely young kids? Well, that these are decisions I have to take. So if I want to take responsibility of my mental health, I don't have to be a superstar in everything. Why do I have to be? I have to go back to myself and ask myself these questions. If I can become a superstar in everything at this given time, it means I need to surround myself with a fantastic support network. My mother, my husband, everybody has to be online with me in this plan and support me to be a super manager as well as a super mother, right? But if I don't have that in my capability, ability, surroundings, then I have to make a choice that for a couple of years, I don't need to be super boss. I need to be a super mom. And then I'll go back to becoming super boss after a couple of years. Whatever works for you doesn't work for me, doesn't work for, someone else.
Sure.
So this plan is my plan according to my life, according to my priorities, because sometimes we just look at people and we envy them for whatever they have. But when you really sit and ask yourself this question, do I really want that? Or am I just admiring them? And you can take and learn from them and take the best out of them, but not the full picture. I don't need to be everywhere and
Sure.
doing everything. So, but if you can do everything, then do it. You need to know what it takes, resources. And these resources are your friends and your family and your support network and everything that comes with it. So the way I do it is prioritize. The way I advise people to do it is prioritize what you really want in life, what you can do, but know yourself and know your capabilities from all aspects. And then this will take care of itself because you won't get all these psychosomatic, symptoms,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
So we know that we are humans. Adrenaline will come, whether we like it or not. Adrenaline will come. But now, how it comes, am I going to pop in ashwagandha every day? Am I going to take, what am I going to do about it? How am I going to maneuver my way through my life with all this adrenaline that's coming? To me, it's the view, it's the overview. I won't let it stress me right from the
Sure.
source. I know my stressors, I know my triggers very well, and that comes with self-awareness, right? If I know my triggers very well, I will know how to deal with my triggers and avoid them.
Sure.
If I don't
Sure.
know them, what's the use? So many people don't know their triggers.
Sure.
There's lack of self-awareness in this matter.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
self awareness is something very important. In my long entrepreneurial journey, I had a Scottish man who was coaching me, and he'd always ask me that one question, Palan, what is it that you want? What is it that you want?
You have to keep
What is it
asking
that you
ourselves this
want?
question.
And then, I used to just throw up in horror my hands and I said, I just told you, Ed, what is it? No, no, I'm just trying to go further. What is it that you want? And it kind of threw me off balance for a long time until a certain point I realized, okay, for me to prioritize, I need to know what is it that I want. Otherwise, I'll never be
Yeah.
able to prioritize. And, the 5 a.m. club, the guy says, look, somebody else made a comment and said, if you can't get up at 5 a.m., that's okay. Get up at 7. But, do some of the things that he suggests, which is actually a ritual, which is like what you say, it's important 20, 20, 20. 20 minutes of moving your body. And I think he says in this book, how moving your body can stop losing your mind. And the next 20 minutes, just go ahead and basically say, look, meditate, or after that 20 minutes, do something else. Yeah. Go and read something. So, what do you think, Gautami, that goes on here? Yeah.
So I
How
just,
do you bring some of this learning into our day to day lives? Yeah.
yeah. So I just wanted to kind of tag on one thought but that's been my learning through all my interactions to what Amal said. It's about,
Mm,
knowing who you are, where you want to get there, recognizing yourself and all of that. Absolutely right. But the thing is, most
mm,
people today in society across,
mm, mm,
socioeconomic, not only that, but also age demographics,
mm.
almost everybody is a victim of peer pressure. Now, this peer pressure is
Correct.
mostly mandated by society around them, not even friends and neighbors. But it's about if you're a mother, this is the kind of mother you should have. This is the kind of child you should have. This is the kind of home you should have. This is the kind of income you should have. Your husband should be. So these are actually, if you look at it, completely irrational expectations, because putting the pressure of what the husband should be like on the wife does not make sense because the husband is his own entity. So, I mean, I say that as an example. So, pretty much most of everybody's lives, from the time they're old enough and aware enough to enter into the social paradigm, which is probably from, middle school onwards, most of them become uh, victims of this. And they are so inculcated into this. The indoctrination is so complete, so smooth right from the beginning that they're caught, and before they know it, they think that this is what it is. This is who they are, which is mandated by
Mm.
all these nameless people around. And then they get caught in that. So they know they're unhappy. They know they need to be somewhere else, but they don't know how to get there. And they don't know, as you said, what do you want? What do you want? Is something that most people don't know how to ask themselves. And then how do they get themselves out of the rut of what people have told them they should be and realize who they really are and then get to that? So once they've gotten out of this rut, then the rest of it is actually much easier in comparison. So I have
Mm-hmm.
found the
Mm-hmm.
main struggle is to reach people and tell them, you are so much more than you think you are right now, which is what I focus on a lot. Young people, older people, most of the talks that I do, schools, colleges, um, all kinds of crowds, I tell them one thing: you are worth it because you are perfect and just enough as you are.
Sure.
So it's
Sure.
heartbreaking
You are.
when you see the
Oh,
number of people who get lost when they hear that. It just doesn't make sense. That's what I find so heartbreaking. But yeah, keep chipping
sure.
away at it.
So
Advice.
you are the architect of your lives. Yeah.